Okay, so what we're going to do now is we are going to look at a slightly larger product mix to take a look at what goes on. And so basically just using solver on a much more complex kind of thing. So PC Tech must decide how many of each of its computer models to assemble and test, but now there are 8 available models and each computer has to be assembled and then tested. But there are 2 lines for testing. The first one tends to be faster, probably more experienced people because the labor costs are higher. And so each line has a certain amount of time for testing, and any computer's test can be tested on any line. And so we'll look at all these values on the next page. And so if we go into the model, you can see we have our blue, all of our given times, 11 hours for assembly, 19 for testing on line 1, 17 on line 2. We have all of our stats for our computers, labor hours for assembly, testing time on line 1, 2, components, selling price, and then we have our decision variables. Notice we got a lot here. How many we're going to put on line 1, how many we're going to put on line 2, the maximum sales for the computer, and all of this other stuff that we have, labor availability and net profit. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is let's go and just make the range names first and get that out of the way because we are going to use them. And so we're going to have hours available will be 1. We will use hours used. We're definitely going to use maximum sales. And then a number tested on line 1. And then I'm holding control and they get number tested on line 2. So we have those 2 different ones there. And we're also going to do total computers produced. And then the last one that we're going to have is total profit, which I need to actually write that in. So we'll just finish this one up first. So data, actually formulas, create from selection. Now we've got these are from the top row. These are going to be from the left-hand side. So unfortunately, I don't want it pulling from the top row because we don't have stuff there. So that's my fault. So let's redo this really quickly. And so I'm going to put total profit here because I'm going to end up renaming that cell. Let's move that, kind of justifying it to the other way. So always want to do the horizontal ones and then the vertical ones. So we'll sit there. I want to get all 3 of those in. And that 4th one, and then total profit, data, formulas, create from selection from the left, and then we're going to get these 2 from the top. Formulas, create from selection, we'll get those from the top. Now there is one thing that I forgot that I haven't brought up before, is we can actually paste those range names out so we can see what they're going to be. So we'll come over here and go range names. And then let me control B to bold that. Now, why would you want to do this? It's nice to be able to see what the range names are referring to without having to go look for them. Because I would have to go and highlight this to go, okay, that's the numbers tested on line 1. So what I can do is go formulas, use in formula, paste names, and we're going to take them all. So paste list. And then I'll pop that out. And so now you can see, well, hours available is going to be on model, which is the spreadsheet, D26 to D28. And so we can sit there and go, okay, well, D26 to D28 is right there. And so it's a handy thing to have. Typically, when you're using range names, you want to do something like this. Okay, so let's go and start putting stuff together. First, let's put together our margins. And so we have a different margin depending on which line that it goes onto. So we're going to sit there and go, it's our selling price minus the cost of components. And then we're going to have to subtract from that the assembly and testing for line 1. So we'll do a some product of labor and testing on line 1 with labor and testing on line 2. Oops. Comma to do it on for that one. Okay, so from there, what I want to do is I do want labor hours. I want the column to change as I pull it over, but when I drag it down for 2, I do not want that one to change. So B9, I want to put a $sign there. in front of the 9 so that the row doesn't change, but the column will. B10, I am going to want B10 to shift because I'm going to want it to go down to the next line for when I drag it down. I also want it to go over, so we'll leave that one alone. So labor hours for assembly, B3. I don't want that one to change at all. So I'm going to hit F4 and put the $2 signs in there. And then I'm looking at B4. Now I don't want the B to change, but I do want it to be able to go down 1. So I will put the $sign in there. So that means B won't change, but the 4 will. Okay. And hopefully that'll work out. We're going to check that out here in a second. So 128. And so let's drag that down and let's see if the indexing works. Oh, the indexing did not work because what did I do wrong? Got to lock in. So the selling price, we want the row not to change. We want the column to change. Same thing with the component price. Okay, so now let's try that and see. Okay. Oh, I didn't, because it was part of an array, it kind of just drug the array down. So I was kind of hoping to do something cute there, and that apparently did not work out well. So what we're going to do is, we're just going to fix this, and we're going to say some product of that with some product of that. I'm just going to worry about dragging it from the left to the right, so I don't want the B's to change. And this one, I don't want the rows to change. Okay. So I'm going to drag that left to right, and that should be correct for all of that. Okay. And so let's go to this one here. As I said, I was trying to be a little bit cute and make this work out. And so I'm actually not going to use some product there because I'm not going to have easy arrays. We will just do minus labor for assembling times assembling. And I don't want the column to change on B3, and I don't want the row to change on B9. And then we'll do the second testing line. Same thing here. We're not going to want the column to change. And then we'll multiply that by the testing hours for 2. And then I don't want the row to change there. Okay. And so 122 is what I should have. And we will drag that over. And we'll just randomly check one here. Okay, it looks like it is indexing properly. Okay, so we have all these different models of computer, and you know what? We're just gonna put ones in for everything. I'm gonna Control C, Control V, just to pop ones in everywhere. And if they need to be 0, Solver will figure that out. I'm not worried about that. So number to produce, I'm just going to sum up each column. And so that will tell me exactly how many of 2 to make, of model 1 to make, all 2s. That's what it should be. So that's all great. All right. And so this is my constraint, because I have maximum sales numbers of all these different computers. So I'm just going to do my less than or equal to and drag that across now to make sure that when I go to put my constraints in, that they're all set. Okay, and we'll just Control C, Control V this down because I know that my hours available have to be less than or equal to what we've got here. Actually, I'm just going to grab these. All of these, actually. So like I said, I like my commas in there. So we'll make sure that my thousands all have commas and center it just to make it look pretty. Okay, so labor available for assembly. So what is that going to be? Well, that's going to be a sum product of my total amount of computers, because they have the same thing, with the labor hours for assembly. Okay, labor hours for testing. I'm going to, for line 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take everything from line 1, and actually I'm going to sum product that first. Sum product everything from line 1, and we're going to do that by the labor hours for line 1. And then I'm actually just going to do the same thing here again instead of trying to drag it down because things are locked in and whatnot. So sum product for number on line 2 with the testing hours for line 2. Okay. And so the last thing to do would be the profit. And so we could do tested on line 1 times the margin for tested on line 1. We just do that once, and we'll just drag and drag, and that should all match up there, and it does. Everything indexed the way it should. So the last thing is total profit. Now I could sum this across here, I could sum this across here, or we can just shortcut it and tell it sum everything in all those blocks. And so once I do that, so making one of all computers is going to put me at $2,383. And let's go and change that into currency so that we have a dollar sign. So as of right now, that is set. We've got everything filled in. And so in the next video, we're actually going to run Solver.